The council meeting will please come to order. If you would rise and give your attention to Councilman Manspeaker for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I would just ask that we take a moment of silence for quiet contemplation. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There are no proclamations, and we do have a presentation. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to ask Mr. Whitaker to step forward. Over the past year, we've had several conversations about the CIP and the CID and all the projects that have been approved and what was the status of those. So we have been diligently working to create a 10-year presentation, but more importantly, I'm sure Mr. Whitaker will talk about this, is we made sure that our systems internally would make them very easy to access this information. And at this point, I will turn it over to Mr. Whitaker.
Thank you, Mr. Whitaker.
Your Honor, council people, thank you for this opportunity to come and bring this to you. The purpose of this book, and I think most of you have it with you tonight, is to provide the completed CIP approved projects for the past 10 years. So this would be basically 2004 through 14. And again, this book is working with the completed projects. So those that aren't completed, we're going to be, and I'll talk about that at the end, what our plans are there. I do want to emphasize that this book took a lot of effort by several different departments to gather all of this information. Past processes and going through two financial systems in the last 10 years created a lot of challenges to try to pull all this information together. So I want to thank, there were finance, public works people, other departments that all helped with this, so there was a lot to put it together. Just to kind of just give you an overview of it, and then I'll talk about another function that we have, is the projects are broken down into 7 categories. We were trying to see what's the best way to categorize them. Neighborhood projects, and if you look at in section right there after the table, or the table, or title page, is the table of contents, and we've got them by sections 2 through 8. Primarily it's neighborhood projects, then public safety, traffic, which is primarily just traffic signals, etc., streets, quality of life, that's where we have the zoo, parks and rec, because obviously we had parks and rec through this period of time. Then utility section showing our utilities, and then facilities projects. And then if you go to section 1, there's kind of a summary page there, and it kind of shows what was the total of the approved budgets and the total of the expenditures that were spent in each one of those categories. Also to note in here, each section contains a list of projects by year completed with information related to, we tried to pull in the project number, the ordinance or resolution that approved it, description, cost information broken down by approved budget, and the actual expenses. And then in the street projects, we also noted that there's the street expense, and then if there were utility expenses, such as water, stormwater, and like that, we put a little extra section in there so you could see how much utility work was wrapped into each, was a part over and above the actual street construction. The book represents over 270 projects with a total expenditure in excess of $302 million the past 10 years.
Let's pull it up. Let's walk through it.
Oh, the book, okay, I'm sorry.
No, you're okay.
Okay. There's the summary page. Again, as I said, it was about over $302 million, and the projects were funded from several different sources, such as GO bonds, city half-cent sales tax, county half-cent sales tax, federal fund exchange dollars, and enterprise fund dollars, and those are the primary funding sources. We, in addition to this book, which goes through each section with it, we also have come up with an online map to try to help each of you that will allow you to, and I'll try to, is it coming? Oh, there it is. Sorry. An online map that shows all of the completed projects, and you can zoom in. Again, in section 9 is the actual address where you can actually access it right now. This gives you your key, so it tells you which type of projects there are. There are, utility projects, there's neighborhoods, quality of life, street, etc. Like I explained as far as the breakdown of tabs. And then if you want to look at your district, you can actually go here and then pick a district and actually just let me pick District 1, it's right there. It will zoom in, and therefore you can look at your district there and then see each project there. I would like to just highlight a few of the projects on this map and show you what information is available, and then we'll go through a few other items. First is the neighborhood project, which was the NOTO project, and as you see, it will pull up information, again, gives you the detail as far as the resolution, funding source, etc., and then you can click on it, and then there's a picture that goes along with it. Another project to look at would be Southwest 21st Street, which was Gage to Topeka Boulevard. Again, this was a half-cent sales tax project. Work included mill and overlay and some median repair. And again, we've got some pictures to kind of just tie it in with what the project was. Next is, this was, I understand, sorry about that, the Kansas Avenue extension, which tied Kansas Avenue to Topeka Boulevard, which opened up and helped a lot with traffic down in that area. And again, it takes you to a picture of that and then provides the other information for the project. We also have, obviously, one of the big projects was the Topeka Boulevard Bridge. And again, gives you all the information, and one of the big projects that was funded through the county half-cent sales tax. In addition to just street and bridges and like that, we also can go in and show some of the projects like at the zoo and the quality of life. This was the Animal Health Center expansion that was built during this period of time. And then just recently, if you haven't seen it, is the, it's called the quarantine building, which is all part of their, where they can take care of the animals there at the zoo. And some of this was due to regulatory requirements, et cetera, that had to be put in. So this is the map, again, to just give you an overview of all the projects. Let me just clear that back out. And then it's a online map is a work in progress. We know we thought maybe we'd use some generic pictures, and then as we thought about it, it would confuse that people would say that's not that intersection. So we're going to be adding additional pictures on each of these projects that we can. We can actually add a series of pictures in there where we can show the before picture and the after picture when you, what it looked like before it was constructed, and then what was completed after it was all done. We'll also be adding the cost information so that you go on the map, you'll actually be able to see the total cost that the project included. We have most of that information, but we wanted to, because you're working with different tables, we want to make sure that it matches up totally with the book. Most of them do, but we just want to go through everything there and make sure of that. Going forward, The goal is to provide information on approved CIP projects that are currently in design or under construction, so that you can go online to a map and know where each of the projects are, so that both, not only the citizens and the council can go there, or anyone, city manager's office, et cetera, can go in and see exactly where they are, and we keep cost information, et cetera, up, and how the projects are going. As I said, this was a work in progress, and we compiled it through, and there's been a lot of eyes on this, and I know there's still more eyes to look at it. And so any updates or questions, corrections, please send them to me, and we will, take a look at them. I know there's a lot of information here. I'll let you peruse through it and look at each of your areas and et cetera, but send me any updates, and then we can research it and get any updates that we need to out, or update the maps, et cetera. So that completes the presentation. I'll attempt to answer any questions that anyone might have.
Well, this is very exciting to see. A lot of good reading here. I'm sure we'll enjoy going through this. And just paging through the street projects, I see a number that include, there was water or water main cost and stormwater. I think we've been doing that for about 3 or 4 years now. Really, if there's any possibility of repairing any need for utility replacement, we're doing that at the same time. Do you see that as a change that's been helpful in this process, where we're coordinating together, and especially upgrading the utilities at this time we repair the streets?
Obviously, it's a positive from the standpoint that if you're putting in a brand new road and you're over a 60, 70, 80, or 100-year-old like downtown water line, it makes sense to go ahead and repair it at this time. That also puts strain on the utilities from the standpoint that maybe they've got other lines that they need to be looking at. So we're working together to try to tie those even better together, so that they're not doing work that maybe isn't as high a priority as it should be. But right now, yes, I mean, it is beneficial, obviously, to look at those utilities, especially stormwater and water lines. Most of the sewer lines aren't right under the street, but the water lines are.
And you said something at the beginning about talking about what's on the agenda, the plans for this year.
What I was talking about is trying to keep track of the ongoing projects, so that you would have access to look at those projects that are in process right now. Like I said, this was strictly those
Right,
that have been
historical.
completed. Yeah.
But you will have one of current projects at some point.
Yes, we should be bringing, we're pulling all that information together and I'll make an
Just
announcement.
because I had the
together.
question, so what streets are we doing this year? So, that type of, I think,
Correct.
information for us to have as people ask that question, what are the streets we're going to be doing? I know we have some knowledge because we approve it, but
Right.
but yet to see that list is always
Yeah, we
good
want
to
to
do
take
and to
that list
refresh.
that we know is approved and then keep it active and a status for you, so that
Yeah, good.
anyone can look at it and see where we're at.
Okay. Questions? Mr. City Manager?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to clarify that, so the objective here is to have a document that will be updated regularly, but more importantly, that we have an online tool that any project, as soon as we approve it, it becomes part of that body of work, that you can maybe have various mapping levels where you can look at all historical projects. If you're only interested in one particular, what happened in 2006, what is happening right now, what are all the projects that are open. So we're just going to continue to work with this, but anybody, whether they're sitting at home or whether you're working in your council office, you have the opportunity to take a look at it and find out where we stand on all of these particular items. So
Good.
I want to commend staff for a lot of work, but I think it's another one of those cases where we should have been doing something like this for a very long time, and we're playing catch-up, but we will not fall behind on this.
Okay. Questions? Councilwoman Hiller?
I've got a couple of comments. First, I really like this. I appreciate that staff got hold of us, and those of us that could get in picked it up over the weekend, because it's a lot to get through. So I think it's really helpful. I mean, as I looked at it, I like the fact that it goes back 10 years as well. I recall discussions that we had even just last year about utilities and where they were, which parts of town were getting attention and which ones weren't. And for instance, for West Topeka and Southeast Topeka, you can really see with all the project descriptions as well where those were, and so I like that. I will have a short list of things that I caught because I've been involved in a lot of these projects. A couple of comments or requests that I would make here. I really like having, we could tell that different departments did it and it was the first time out, so it's not at all a criticism. But I like having that source column and having the actual amount and then the final and end cost in there. If the source could be identified on each of them, and because it is on some but not on all. One of the commitments, one thing that I saw was missing is when we've had grant money, the federal fund exchange is in there, but for instance, some of the TE grants have not been. So all I think we're seeing is the city's part. And so if we could add those, I'm really proud of those, and those are part of our CIP. We had talked about adding cash and grants into our CIP, and I think that will help. Something that if it's possible, I know that we bond those after they're done, but where we have bonded, the rates vary. They aren't known in advance, but they're known when we actually bond. If it could show what the total project cost is. We've talked about that before because we used to always get it when we approved a project. If it was to be bonded, it would show the cost as well as the true cost. I would like to see that. Also, for all of us here, I noted when I looked through all the expenses that we spend on City Hall, and as we're considering whether to put City Hall on the historic register, I think all of those could have been covered by tax credits and saved us a lot of money. And so it was just interesting to see how much we've spent even bit by bit and realize that we could be saving that. I also really appreciated the detail and the narrative on the various projects that we've done that included partners. And so I hope we continue to keep that in. There were some, which the mayor talked about, where were utility expenses in partnership with a street project. If there was a simple way, some of those were really big. And I wasn't sure whether those had been projects in and of themselves or whether they were really just a $400,000 or $500,000 project that we had not specifically planned in advance. If there's a way to show that, I mean, you're just seeing that for the first time as we start to do this, so I get that. But where they're tied would be helpful. And these are small. We aren't involved in the decisions on the infill sidewalks, and so we often haven't had a report either. So it's nice to see this, and I really like the decisions that staff made. So, my comments.
Councilman Brown?
Doug, this is a great tool. Thank you for providing it. I'm still digesting it right now. Is this already posted or going to be posted, available to the public?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And then I was going to ask, I know it's not germane to this specifically, but do we have anything available to the public online on the prioritization, the selection, the scoring and the selection of projects to kind of give them a better understanding of how you go through this process?
We don't have anything online at this time, but I
I
will
think
take
that'd be
note.
good information to make
Okay.
available. Thank you.
Other questions, comments? Thank you very much. Well, very, very well presented, and we look forward to perusing and enjoying and learning, having a good tool that we can use. Thank you.
Thank you.
We will proceed with the roll call.
Mayor Wolgast.
Here.
Councilmembers Hiller,
Here?
Brown. Ortiz. Everhart. Here. De La Isla.
Here.
Manspeaker.
Here.
Schwartz. Schmidt.
Here.
And Harmon.
And Councilwoman Ortiz is ill this evening. Council members, there are no additions or deletions to the agenda, and there is no executive session. We will proceed with the consent agenda.
A are minutes of the regular meeting of January 13, 2015, and there are no applications.
Okay, you have heard the consent agenda, Ms. DeLispa. He moves to approve. Councilman Schmidt seconds. Discussion. All those in favor vote yes. Opposed vote no.
We have 8 yes.
8 having voted yes, the consent agenda is approved. Proceeding to the action items on the Economic Community Development Committee report.
A is approval of the Economic and Community Development Committee's Social Services 2016 funding priorities and initial 2016 budget recommendations.
And I recognize Councilmember De Isla, who will give the committee report.
Thank you, Mayor Wolgast. At this time, I would just like to inform the public that the Economic and Development Committee met 2 times in the last month, and we have successfully come with some suggestions for the council to approve. You will see in your packet that you have a timeline that includes the time of communication, application review, and recommendations and approval. This also includes, one of the things that was requested from this body at the time of review of applications last year was that the committee had an appeal process. We're happy to say that we have included this in our process, and all the timing that you see here includes that going forward. The committee at this time would like to request approval not only for the process, but also for the tentative amounts of $300,000 to be allocated to contract services and $470,000 to go to all other organizations. Out of these funds, 25% of them are going to be allocated to emergency aid, and the rest of it, 75% to preventative and counseling. We are very confident at this point in time, having heard from all of the social services organizations that participated in the process, from the staff that has been extremely diligent. Corey, there's not enough words to say how much we appreciate you and Rochelle. All of you have been wonderful. Nikki, you as well. But we have had a lot of feedback from the organizations, and the organizations, from what we hear, feel very confident about their ability to fill this out. They understand that there's going to be changes, and they understand that there may be organizations that may not receive funding. And they are very content with the way that the scoring is being presented. This would be our 2nd year using the scoring criteria, and apparently the criteria has been so popular that it has been adopted by the drug and alcohol funds as well. So, that being said, I'm open to questions or other comments from the committee members.
Thank you. The committee's report is received. Is there discussion? Councilwoman Hiller?
Only one thing. Thank you, Chair, and it was a really good experience. There is one new agency in the contracted agencies, and that's the juvenile intake from Kansas Children's Service League. And there is $64,000, I think, that had been funded out of the police department before that would come with them over to this bucket. Is that correct, Chair?
That is correct.
Okay. Just to clarify, people looked at that later.
Further discussion. Do you wish to move the approval of?
I wouldn't miss.
Actually, we, a motion to accept the committee's, or to approve the committee's recommendation.
I would make that motion.
You would make that motion, approval. That includes the funding proposal, the calendar, and the basis, the evaluation process, I believe. Those 3 items. Councilman Schmidt?
I second that that motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Councilman Brown?
Well, I think this is great. It's clear and concise, and I thank the committee for their work. I just had one question under issues and outcomes. Applicant has achieved outputs and outcomes on prior grants. As new applicants come into the process, that's going to place them at a disadvantage. Does that phrasing and your intention include that they can present prior grants if they have those, even if they're not specific to what they're applying for?
Councilman Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilman Brown, that is correct.
Thank you very much.
Is there other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor vote yes, opposed vote no.
We have 8 yes.
8 having voted yes, the Development Committee report is approved and with its recommendations. Next, we proceed to the applications. Clerk would read.
We have one cereal malt beverage application for Grover's located at 1217 Southwest Gage Boulevard, and staff is recommending approval.
Okay, your pleasure. Councilman Harmon.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move approval.
Move to approve, and Councilwoman Della Isla seconds. Discussion. All those in favor vote yes. Opposed vote no. I vote yes.
We have 9 yes.
9 having voted yes, the applications are approved. Completes the action items. We go to the non-action items, and we have a discussion on the budget priorities. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the beginning of the process we all love, the budget process. And we are working very diligently to start early, to make sure that we are all in agreement as to what the schedule is, but most importantly, what is it that we're trying to achieve during this year. Nikki Lee is stepping to the podium, and her objective today is just to sort of give a very brief recap of things that we have done in the past, this body has adopted, and as a way of reminder, and then really, and this is very important to understand, just open the discussion of budget priorities and opportunity for people for you all to discuss what's important to you as the budget is constructed. We will ultimately, as we do in several other instances, we will observe the conversation, we will clarify, and then we will come back with a list of budget priorities that you have created, and then this body will formally adopt those as we go forward. And anything I said wrong, Nikki will fix.
Okay. Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. As we just alluded to, this is just the beginning of the 2016 budget process, and we're hoping to start the process and the conversation earlier this year. That way there's plenty of time for your input, for the public's input as we get into the 2016 budget process. And just to begin, wanted to lay a little bit of context, kind of connecting this with last week's meeting where you all talked about the 2015 organizational priorities and the city's strategic plan. So these are just up here just to remind you all what the city's organizational priorities are, and just to kind of line everything up together so that we're making sure that we're all working towards the same goals. So before we begin, just wanted to remind everybody some of the significant 2015 accomplishments with the 2015 adopted budget. You all adopt the budget back in August, so it's been a couple of months since we've talked about it as a group. And I think there were some pretty significant items that you all did that were new in the 2015 budget that right now, since we're already almost a month into 2015, are really rolling in really important priorities. The first is there was a balanced budget adopted with no increase to the mill levy. You all adopted a 3-year capital improvement budget and a 5-year capital improvement plan, and you did this before the budget process last year, which really better allowed for us to have long-term planning with our capital projects. And also, since it was before the budget process, it allowed us to roll all of those projects into the budget, which you all adopted. You continued your focus on neighborhood relations through reorganization and addition of some positions, for example, the property maintenance inspectors. And we were able to do that with existing resources, just reallocating it to different departments. We adopted a cash basis budget for increased visibility. And we showed commitment to reducing health claim costs and improving quality of life by supporting a wellness program and a clinic. And before we talk about the 2016 budget priorities, wanted to remind you all what was officially adopted for the 2015 priorities. These were adopted by you all in May of 2014 for the 2015 budget. And as the city manager stated, you all aren't needing to commit to any of these tonight, just to simply begin starting to talk about it and start to think about it. So in 2015, the adopted priorities in alphabetical order were continuing a commitment to developing neighborhoods, continuing a commitment to public safety, establishing fiscal sustainability by building the general fund balance, and investing in infrastructure. So as we think about 2016, really you have a few options. One would be to keep the same priorities, or of course the other option would be to keep some of these and amend them. So I would just open up any conversation you all want to have. And if you aren't ready tonight to talk about it, I've got an open door, open email. You can contact me anytime and share thoughts at a later date as well.
Well, I think you're asking for responses
You want me to
now, is that
finish?
correct?
I can keep going.
All right.
How about I'll finish,
All
and then
right,
we'll come
I'll
back?
do that.
Okay. Sorry. A few issues that we'd like to just kind of lay the groundwork that as we go into the 2016 forecast and budget issues, we know are going to be issues that are going to need to be addressed. So I thought we'd just start to mention a few. That way, June isn't the first time that we're talking about it as a group. First would be potential state budget threats. At this point, some of you have probably already read the proposed budget, and at this point, we're not seeing any direct impacts to the city's finances. However, this is all proposed. There's a whole session that needs to be gotten through, so we will definitely be monitoring all along the way, and nothing is really final until it's final. Another issue that we'll be talking about really this year and really through every budget process we should be looking into is our internal service cost models. And what that is that's money that we essentially pay ourselves to provide some of the services internally. This is what we use to fund our fleet, our facilities, and our information technology. And of course, those are all areas that are needing to have constant investment, constant monitoring, are constantly changing. So as we go into the 2016, we're really going to dive into each of these and make sure that our funding model is appropriate. And then finally, really related to that is our deferred maintenance for city facilities. You all talked earlier just about some of our prior projects that we had in our city facilities. And when we talk about this, this is not only City Hall, this is our Holiday, 620 Madison building, any of our plant locations, and really any, the law enforcement center, any facility that the city owns, we need to make sure that we're keeping up with the needs of the building and getting ourselves back on a pretty good schedule there. And finally, you all have this printed off, and this will be posted on the website. This is a tentative 2016 budget calendar. Essentially from April on, it mirrors pretty similar to last year's process because I think we agreed that it seemed to work pretty well. With May, at the beginning of May, we'll really roll out our public engagement events and start to engage the public and what kinds of things they'd like to see. And then throughout June would be the focus would be looking at the proposed budget and working through the workshops. The biggest change that you're going to see here is the capital improvement plan will be introduced to you in early February or early March, and hopefully ready for approval later in March. That is the end of my presentation.
Okay, questions, comments, suggestions? Councilman Hiller?
I've got just a couple. First, I really like this. I like starting early. I like the structure, so I'm really pleased to see what we have. On page, well, what's page 1 of the printout, I guess, where we make reference to the 2015 strategic plan. This is more of a technical suggestion, I guess. I know that we're working toward having a strategic plan for the city, but right now we don't, and I think it's a little misleading. My preference would be that we set strategic goals, which I do think we've agreed to. So that's just a comment. So if some citizen wanted to go find the whole thing, they wouldn't find it.
Thank you.
Under budget priorities, I would suggest a change in the third item on the list between 2016 and 2017. That third item in 2015 says establishing fiscal sustainability by building the general fund balance. That was very important when City Manager Colson first came on and when our balances were low. But our policy says that we've got a 10% goal for our fund balance, and I think we are at this point in excess of 12. Is that correct? I think
We'll be bringing you the updated
we've
14
passed
number
that.
here in a couple of months.
The city manager mentioned it last week. I think we've surpassed 12. And I think for long term, that replacing that with a statement that says improving fiscal sustainability by reducing debt. Our debt service for GO right now was $19 million roughly in 2014, and we're only spending $9 million a year. That, to me, every time I look at that, that's 9 or 10 mils of money that's just going to interest, and much of that accumulate over the years has been maintenance rather than new facilities or really big expenses. And I know we've been talking about it for a while. If I recall correctly, either 2014 or 2015 were the year, when you look at an amortization schedule, there was a bubble where it went up and we needed extra money to cover it. It's why, one of the reasons we raised the taxes. But the bubble year is past, I think. I think it was last year rather than this year. So it's gonna start dropping anyway, and if we can sustain ourselves within the cap or reduce that, perhaps even converting any excess cash over that, a certain agreed fund balance, to using cash for those capital improvements instead of borrowing, and we've got the flexibility to decide that. I've got a chart that our financial consultant's assistant did for me a year ago when we were at this process that shows how we could start diminishing that debt substantially, and that money would then be available to either reduce taxes or to spend on those things that Ms. Lee has itemized. So I would recommend that we change that third item, or that consider it anyway. And last but not least, just a small thing on our calendar, and it's wonderful to have it this far in advance. Thank you so much. The second Saturday in June is a standing conflict for me. I went ahead and went to the session. I don't know if we absolutely have to have a Saturday session. I assume this is just morning, rather than all day.
To be determined.
TBD. I just wanted to speak up that
Okay.
either not a session on Saturday or make it real early so people can get out would be
Thank
good
you.
for me.
Is that the
Thank you.
June 16th?
June 13th.
Okay. It says 6 o'clock PM, but that might not be.
It does? Oh,
Sorry, I think that was an error.
yeah, I've got
All
the
right.
short version that I got by email, so.
Mr. City Manager?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I could just comment, generally, when we've done the Saturday sessions, we started at 9 o'clock and we were done no later than noon. So that's what we've done in the past.
That was hard, so I just wanted to speak up now.
Councilwoman Delisla?
Thank you, Mayor Wolgast. I would just like to say thank you, not only for just putting this together and just giving it to us so early, but I think that as we are reviewing the budget priorities, it really helps our citizens to understand what a city really does. There's the body of the city. There's so many things that sometimes that we handle on a day-to-day basis, but when you look at these priorities, which talk specifically to neighborhoods, public safety, financial sustainability, and infrastructure, that is the heart of a city. And I think that it's great to have it in small bullet points so that when we're debating with regards to what things we're gonna have to make hard decisions on, rather than thinking of different things and areas, we focus on how these things are going to be impacted here, because this is what we're really here for. So I just really appreciate the clarity and how succinct it was. Appreciate all your work.
Other council members? Seeing none, thank you very
Thank you.
much, appreciate it. We have one person who has signed to speak on this item, Mr. Ledbetter.
Governing body saw this, I said, well, we'll just start the year early and on the budget process, start talking about things that I've brought up in the past and maybe some new ideas. Now, if you have higher ending balances, you can always give that back in tax relief. That always works with property tax owners. They like that. I would like to continue to see attention given to NIAs as part of this budget process. Some things that I would like to see are the pushing and lobbying for a turnpike entrance in southeast Topeka that would either connect California or East 29th Street. Over the years, I've brought up different ideas to different bodies and said, why not, instead of why? And usually those carry because people say, wow, why didn't I think of that? And it's really not about who thought of it or who takes ownership. It's about just get it done because it's needed. I think we need to look at our collective bargaining agreements. Very few cities in the state have collective bargaining. It's not a given. Most cities don't have it. I think you have to look carefully at these agreements, make sure that they're not excessive.
make sure that overtime is strictly controlled, make sure that any perks are questioned, and that you have hard negotiation, because we have a very soft economy, whether people in the city want to believe that or not. You get in the private sector, it's very soft. It's been soft. We've lost a lot of private sector jobs in this town, which is another budget issue that needs to be talked about. And we need to really quit putting our head in the sand about those items and take the bull by the horns and start talking about true economic development that is needed in this community, and not just passe PowerPoints that are given at JADO meetings that make no sense, have no foundation in fact, almost all of them. And you go, why aren't we dealing with this issue? Why is it so tough? And I hope if there's people out there that want to run, that they will definitely brush up on those JADO minutes, which are on on the clerk's office website, and start paying attention to where this economic development money has gone or not gone, because we do not have transparency. And it is important. Now, tonight you're talking about doing these budgets early. Here we are in January, and we're starting to talk about it. Well, we're lucky if we get 5 days' notice on a Go Topeka budget. We used to get 5 minutes until I kept pushing for a new rule to give some advance notice, and we now get a whole 5 days to see where they're going to spend the money. That's not enough time. I would like to see GPS on all city vehicles, and starting especially with utilities. And I think that it's time to get that done. And I think there are cost savings. A key word when you're operating a small business or a business of any kind in the private sector is a word called productivity. And our employees need to be aware of that. I'm not saying they're not, but it needs to be constantly talked about and reinforced. We need to be productive, as does Go Topeka. And I'm not seeing it out of them. I am seeing it out of some of the city workers. But it's a concept that constantly has to be talked about and reinforced. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll proceed then with the announcements, and there's no meeting next week, so we do not have a agenda. The preliminary agenda will come out Thursday of this week. Mr. City Manager for the announcements.
I have no announcements today.
I have none either. We'll go to Councilman Manspeaker, Councilwoman Schwartz, Councilman Schmidt, Councilman Harmon, Councilwoman Hillary.
Sorry. I'll make them quick. I accepted the invitation for a sneak peek at the 712 Innovations office today, and it blew me away. They are already loading up with their equipment, and the program is going to be phenomenal. If people from the public want to go to the sneak peek, Fast Forward is hosting one from 5 to 7 this Thursday evening, and if people register through the chamber, they are welcome to go as well. The entire public is welcome. There'll be more information coming, but the Downtown Topeka Merchants have scheduled a big fundraiser event for HHB Barbecue and Top City Soda Pop that were burned out in the fire. It will be the 28th of February at TPAC. The public is invited, so I want people to get that on their calendars. The Dillon House, which is downtown across from the Capitol, is moving right along. If people drive by now at 9th and Harrison, they can see finished work happening outside and a big banner. They are taking reservations already for weddings and events and are booking out. And the photos are phenomenal to see them. And last but not least, we've been mentioning the Topeka Roadrunners, the hockey team, the last couple of weeks, and something we have overlooked, I see the owner-manager in the back, is the fact that they are in first place. They are not just our hockey team, they are at the head of the division and have been pretty much all year, and are also tied for first place in the league. So go Roadrunners. Thank you.
Councilman Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had one thing. I was going to remind everyone that might have time to volunteer that the homeless point in time count is going to be this January 28th. So if you do have the opportunity to volunteer and help with that, give Community Resources Council a call. Thank you.
Thank you for that comment. Councilwoman or Deputy Mayor Everhart.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I really, at this time, just wanted to say thank you to the people of the 4th District. It has really been an honor to serve them. And I think there has been a lot of progress within the district, not only things like road work and water projects that were hard fought for. Highland Park High School has the only robotics program, which is makes them a feeder school into Washburn Tech, and that's really great. We have new business as well as expansion of business, so there are great things happening on the east side. And it really has been an honor to be a part of that, and there's a lot of people who should be thanked who helped make all those things happen. What I needed to make sure I said tonight was that while it's an honor to have represented for the last 4 years, I do not intend to seek re-election. So I certainly encourage anyone who wants to continue to see progress in the 4th District to get out and file and run for election. Thank you.
Thank you for the announcement also. Best wishes. Councilwoman Delisle, okay? That completes the announcements. We then have public comment. Mr. Ledbetter.
Governing body, thank you, Ms. Everhart, for your service, and you certainly have been a backup vote for many of the things we need in Highcrest, and I do appreciate that. We've started a new group in this city. I've had 3 meetings already. It's called Citizens for Accountability in Government. The first priority is to address our sales tax with economic development that we can't seem to get answers out of as to where it's going, where it went, where it's going in the future. And we've had 3 very good meetings, vigorous. We're going to have a forum at the library March 2nd for all candidates running for city office. So bone up on questions about JADO and transparency, and should our money be transparent in all facets of tax money. We'll be watching to see what current members do at the next JADO meeting and to see if new suggestions are going to be received from the public or if they're going to continue to be ignored. And I have asked how those items are placed on the agenda, and I'm waiting for that answer. We know that that meeting is coming up. I believe it's February 11th. I have made a core request of Go Topeka for the November 2014 meeting. I received a denial back. That's not the end of this. That's ridiculous. That meeting was discussed at the last JADO meeting, which opens the door. And I talked to, I'm not going to give names right now, but there are a lot of people that want to know what's going on in Go Topeka. I talked to an investigator, and this individual told me that if organizations such as a Go Topeka with that kind of public funding are denying minutes, that is highly suspicious. And I think it's suspicious. I've been thinking it's suspicious for a long time. Now, what am I suspicious about? Well, why don't you just open up the minutes and let me look at them, and then I'll tell you what I'm suspicious about. It is ridiculous. It is the simplest of things to give your minutes of how your organization is operating to the public. What in the world are they hiding? I've asked that before. This discussion is not going to go away. There's other people that are interested now. I don't have to do it by myself anymore. Hopefully some of them will start coming forward and speaking, but I guarantee you they're working behind the scenes to find out what in the world is going on with our money. And they're asking a lot of questions. And they know a lot more people than I do. They know developers that are fed up. They know poor people that are fed up, rich people that are fed up. And it is a very small minority of people in this town that don't have questions that are actually in the know. Now, there are people that are unknowing. I get that. But of people who know about how these kinds of things work, there are a lot of people, more than you think, that want answers, and those answers are going to have to be forthcoming. This cannot continue that a small group of people continues to benefit while the rest of us do not benefit and are not getting our questions answered. Now, the public will be invited to that meeting, and the public's invited to our Highcrest meeting this week. We're going to be talking about accountability in government. Anybody that wants to show up is welcome to show up. You're welcome to ask questions. I might even put you on the panel. But we are going to get answers in 2015 as to where this money has gone and where it is going. And the public is going to start having input into how it's spent. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. There being no other business before the body, the meeting is adjourned.